It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. This is another edition of Frontline Friday with my notable guest, Bridget Gleason. Bridget, how you doing?
I like it, Andy. Notable. We've changed it up a bit.
Well,
that's fantastic. We talked about that last week.
You had suggested that we do that, and
I know.
And so,
well, yeah. I like, and that feels good. I like when my ideas get executed.
I'm nothing if not compliant.
Okay. Well, the good. That totally works for me.
So, actually, we're going to lead off with a question that someone had submitted in response to our requests to have listeners submit questions. And this question, it's sort of a broad question, but I thought it ties into the topic we're going to talk about today. So the question was, somebody sent me via LinkedIn, was, geez, how do I find a sales job? You know, what's the best way about going? This is somebody has a sales job, but is transitioning from one company to the next. What's the best way, they want to know, to go out and find a sales job? And they were looking at inside sales role.
Good question. It's funny. I had somebody ask me not how to get into it, but navigating the career once they were in it. Well, I think for somebody right out of school, the most common path that I've seen is starting as a BDR or an SDR, depending on what the company calls them.
Right, but this person's actually done that. So they're saying, okay, either how do I find another SDR job, or they're looking at the mechanics, I guess, is LinkedIn the best way they should be going about it? Is, work their network, and I just thought I'd throw that out there first because, I've got some thoughts as well.
Well, I think number one, your network, and some of it depends how big a network somebody might have or not have right out of school. You and I, in our advanced ages, obviously are going to have a bigger network that we can draw from. But it's why I strongly suggest that people have mentors and other people that they see on a regular basis to help them with their career, because especially at a time like this, for this person who sent in the question, looking for a job, it's really helpful to have someone who's perhaps been in it a bit longer, who's maybe in a similar but maybe different field. I think networking and who you know is very, very helpful, important when you're looking for a job. I think LinkedIn is great. But I would use LinkedIn the same way that I would use LinkedIn if I were an SDR. I would almost approach it the very, very same way that I would if I were an SDR trying to get appointments for my account executive.
That's the point I was going to make. Is if you're in an SDR role, you've developed these skills relative to using LinkedIn and other databases to find the people that you want to contact and start an engagement with. Same process. I mean, that's one aspect. The other thing, though, is also to be a little more foresightful, if you will, starting immediately, even though you're in the job. It may not help you with this job, it could help you with the next job, is get engaged with LinkedIn discussion groups or answers on Quora or something where you're engaging in the community so that people know who you are potentially beyond just a salesperson. And I've heard anecdotally stories from people that have said, I got this job opportunity through somebody that connected with me through a LinkedIn discussion group. And obviously there's more work for them to do, but it opened the door for them. And so you're creating this, it's part of your profile, it's part of your platform you're building. And this platform is something that stays with you. It's one thing to have a resume, but we need to think about our resume in a more global sense, which is what is our platform that we're developing around ourselves, our brand, our personal brand, if you will. So pay attention to that. And again, it may not answer the short-term question that this one woman submitted, which was, what's the best way to go find that next job? But there's always a next job after that one.
Yeah, and I like that Andy, just always thinking ahead, and that we're the managers of our own career. We're the ones who are responsible, and to be thinking about that sort of at every step of the way, and always sort of have that path in mind, that this is something you're building on. Your career is something you build block by block by block, relationship by relationship.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if that answers the question of the person listening, but perhaps that's a start. Tap your network. Use the skills you developed in your current job at the SDR level to build out potential points of contact for new opportunities. Then focus on longer term of building your platform. And I think that's a good start for that person.
I think it is. And LinkedIn does give us a good place to build that platform and to include things that we're passionate about and our interests and where we've studied and classes we've taken and things we do sort of on the side to become better professionals. So I think LinkedIn has given not just salespeople, but business professionals a place to sort of showcase and present and create a platform for themselves that I think is very, very helpful, very powerful.
Yeah, and the last point I'd make is I would take it beyond LinkedIn is that, yeah, share things you're interested about that have to do with your work on Twitter. You know, it's the more you can show the passion for what you're doing and have that come through in your entire platform, you know, including, you know, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Snapchat, you know, whatever you're doing, Instagram, because employers are going to look at those. And if they have a choice between someone that's looking like they're really engaged, they're, you know, tweeting out that they just attended this class, or they're, you know, sharing something that they learned at a conference they went to, compared to another person that just sort of seems like their head down, just sort of, you know, yeah, I show up, I do the job. That's a pretty easy choice for people to make.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I like also, Andy, all these different places to share. I keep hearing more and more about Snapchat as being the one also for business, which sort of surprised me, but that's becoming a popular avenue and place where even business is also happening, which I think is very interesting. You got to kind of always pay attention.
Yeah, well, and big brands are using it to tell their story, and other people that aren't big brands are using it, you know, to tell stories and to engage their audience. And do we start to think about that as individuals? You know, if we have a brand and we're focused on a brand, the brand has customers or an audience, if you will. So we need to be mindful of the fact that, you know, we're giving them information they can use to make a decision about us.
Yeah, that's important. As we're talking, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there are so many things that I need to do just to continue to build the brand, always sort of, you know, thinking ahead on that. So I think at any stage of our careers, there's something to be to learn. There's something to be learned around this, and some, you know, benefit to continue building the brand, even if you're not in the market for a new job. And I think it's probably most important when you're not in the market to be building the brand, and that will really help when you are ready to look for something new.
Oh yeah, then you don't really have to think about it. It becomes part of your portfolio. So, okay, great. Well, it sort of ties with the subject we're going to talk about today is really about career path for salespeople. And we talk maybe more specifically about SDRs because, you know, we do deal a lot with the tech business. You manage a big team of SDRs. But companies handle it very differently, and that is another question that I hear pretty frequently, is, yeah, I don't really see the career path for me in this role as an SDR. And we know the average term, if you will, of an SDR is pretty short, like 1.4 years. So, and oftentimes they're not going on to another sales job. So the question is, you know, how do we keep the good people, and how do we give them a career path to help them develop to become who they want to achieve, the goals they want to achieve in their lives?
You know, I think about, again, I manage an SDR team and have, you know, for the past several years. Most often than not, these are individuals who are right out of school or maybe a year out of school, and they're still trying to figure out, what is it that I want to do? What am I passionate about? What am I interested in? What am I good at? Where do I want to plug in the business world? And so if the SDR role is their first role, they're still trying to figure it out. I think it's unrealistic to expect that all of them will want to continue in the sales role.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, we're going to get, you saw that, in your first job with Xerox. I mean, they intentionally overhired, I think.
Yes.
Knowing that they were going to wash out, a significant fraction of them. And that's fine.
And I think
but it's really about the
challenge,
people that are left, right? That those that have the potential that aspire to something more within that field. And it doesn't seem like we're always doing a great job of sort of mapping out where they can go.
Well, and I think also, Andy, I feel as a manager, and I know the manager I have here who manages the SDR team, who is just stellar. It's caring about the careers of these individuals, whether or not they want to go into sales. It's looking at the role of an SDR manager as beyond and more than just, okay, how do I identify the ones that want to go into sales and then and really focus on those? I think it's maybe the philanthropic human part of me that feels a real obligation to people coming right out of school to help them find what it is, even if it's not sales. So having said that, we had somebody who started as an SDR here at Sumo Logic, and after several months in, she realized, you know what, this isn't exactly what I want to be doing. And
said very nicely.
And she went and took, I think, a role at doing PR. And I don't know, maybe PR will or won't be what she really wants to do, but through the one-on-ones with her manager, they worked through that transition, I think, very seamlessly and without drama. That if it's not the right fit, let's move on and keep going. For the ones that want to stay, I think there's a couple of things to look at. One, do they want to move into a sales role? Is that the path? Is they're on it and interfacing with sales reps? Do they want to move into sales role? That's one avenue. Another avenue I see is that there's some of them that say, you know what, I really like the product, I like the people part. I think I'd feel more comfortable in the account management side. It's a little bit more relationship oriented. I'm not sure about the new business acquisition piece. There's that account management route. I've seen others. Sumo Logic is a technical product. I have individuals and have had individuals on the SDR team. I had this at Engine Yard also, who decided to go into a more technical role. So they became sales engineers, and that's the path that they want to be on. Others have said, you know what, I love the company, love what we're doing, believe in it, love the product. I don't think that sales is right for me. Is there something in, gosh, I had somebody, he wasn't an SDR, but he was a sales rep that he was pursuing product management. Another looking at marketing and events. So I think if they love the company and it's a good fit and they're passionate about it and they really resonate with what the company is doing, there may be opportunities within the organization, especially if you have a really high-performing individual. And so there maybe are places within the organization that fit. So I like to think of the SDR role is this is really their first exposure in many instances to business, to careers, to what does this look like and how can I help them navigate that early path of where they want to go and what they care about.
Right. So, but the question, sort of the larger question though, is, and it's been phrased to me in a recent interview I did with someone that this is sort of a generational issue, is that it's like we've come full circle, is when you and I got started, or at least when you got started. I'm not as old as you are.
That's right. That's fine.
Is the path was pretty well drawn. You knew what the next, if you did well, you knew what the next role was. Not necessarily where the location was, but you sort of knew. And similar to me, I knew that I did well. What happened to me, 18 months, I was a manager in my office. The next step was to go be a a manager in a remote location, and then I could get a branch management job, and so on. And then it seemed like for a lot of companies, especially in the tech space, sort of became less willing to sort of have that sort of tightly drawn out. There's a lot more ambiguity about the career path. But now, again, this interview I had with this VP of sales at a large tech company was what they're finding is that his impression was that millennials want to know what that path is. Not that they necessarily want to follow it, but they sort of need to have that spelled out. And so, are we doing enough to spell that out? Because maybe that's part of what the turnover comes over is that people, there's too much ambiguity, and after investing a year and a half, yeah, that's a tough job to do for more than a year and a half. If they're doing a good job, they really want to know what that next opportunity is.
I think we're doing a horrible job. I don't think we're doing a good job, and I think there is too much ambiguity, and I think we're getting better, and I think I see some companies doing better than others. I think it's easier to have it spelled out if you want to go do this traditional path, SDR to junior account exec, then you're an account exec, then you're saying that path is well defined. Well, millennials don't necessarily want to go down that prescribed path. And so I think there are these different forks in the road that create a more complicated matrix of choices than we had in the past. We had a choice. This is the path. Okay, you get on at this point, and you're on a train. And the train does not have a lot of different places it's going. It's going from point A to point B, and there's several stops in between. And that's really changed. There are a lot of different veering off points that make it more complicated to map. And I think that's where it's a more complicated exercise to try to create this map. I think too that sometimes, and I've had this challenge at various points in time at different companies, is someone may be ready to go to the next step, but perhaps the company hasn't grown fast enough to accommodate that promotion or that next step. Maybe that position isn't available yet, or let's say they want to go to a different department that role isn't available yet. So sometimes it's hard also to map a person's progress with the growth of the company and where the company's growing and what the needs are of a company. So I think I don't think we've done a great job of it. I think it's on people's minds that we do need to do this. But I don't think it's also as easy, Andy, as when you and I were on this path when it was, I wasn't thinking, I'm starting in sales. I wonder what my choices are if I start in sales. I didn't think that. My choices are to keep going down this path.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think that's a good point. I mean, I start going back and forth. I've certainly been guilty of the crime of selling the virtues of ambiguity to new salespeople coming into an organization. When we're, and I think it depends sort of on the stage, right? I mean, and I'm really referring to companies that have really migrated past a stage where they're sort of, just figuring out to where they've got a repeatable, scalable sales process that they're injecting people into this process. That at that point, then, there's inherently less ambiguity. Yeah, there's still a lot of flux around the company and how they're going to grow and how successful they're going to be. But I think part of the way you attract good talent is, even if people, my experience has been with salespeople, and I had this myself, is that even though I didn't necessarily have the intention to stay someplace for a long period of time, it helped to sort of understand the vision of where it could go, because that was always one option. And I think that research has shown, and has been my experience as well, is that for the vast majority of salespeople, it's not always just about the money, right? It's really about what else can I achieve, right? There's status, there's prestige associated with closing certain types of deals and having certain accounts, and maybe if you aspire to be into management, if that's the path you go on to be into management, and those are sort of psychic rewards. And I think everybody sort of is attracted to those, independent of the money.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I'm seeing that more and more, that money is a component, and it's not to be ignored. People care about it, but it's not the only thing that they care about. And you and I have talked about this term, coin operated. Salespeople are coin operated. And I really bristle at that because I don't think.
Yeah, you don't believe that, but people say that about them, yeah.
They say that about them. And I think salespeople are not so single-threaded. And as you point out, they want to work with people that they enjoy. They want to be challenged. They want to feel like they're achieving something. They want a sense of pride in what they do. There's a lot of things that go into their satisfaction and how long they'll stay on a job. And it's not just paying them the most. Absolutely not it. And studies confirm that over and over and over, that we're doing ourselves a disservice if we treat salespeople like they are coin operated, and that's the only thing that matters, and we can essentially buy them. And particularly with the millennial generation, I think they are not easily purchased.
Yeah,
that's not the only thing that matters to them.
Right. Well, we have sort of this interesting evolution of what's happening in sales, is that in certain segments, and I think this is absolutely a growing trend, there's increasing specialization in the roles within sales. And there are some people that, like Justin Roth-Marsh with his book, The Machine, advocates it's not going far enough in terms of specialization, and that if you take it to its sort of logical extreme, that sales reps, so if you become so specialized that to some degree it almost becomes a little more automated, because their responsibilities are much more narrow and it's much more of a repetitive process. It's sort of interesting. We sort of have that. I think we're at this, I don't want to say inflection point is maybe too strong a word, but yeah, I think we still don't understand what the impact of data and specialization is going to be on sales in the long term.
Yeah, data, specialization, and also technology.
Well, yeah, assuming technology drives all of that, right? Yeah.
Right, and just how much of that, when we talk about specialization, how much of that is going to be done by just in the background through technology? There's a lot that's going to be done there too. And what I see happening, and hope continues to happen, is that the sales rep's role is going to get more interesting. And it may be specialized, but it's those parts of the sales process that cannot be automated, cannot be rote, can't be done with a script, can't be templated. I think that really the human piece of it that is very difficult to replace. So it'll be really interesting to watch how this all evolves over time, and how technology and, as you say, specialization plays a role, and how that affects the role of the salesperson.
And I think if somebody's looking at managing their own career path, independent of what a company might offer, is, to your point, especially in the B2B complex sale, and down some degree, we'll say, I'm not sure what level of complexity yet, but we'll just say the complex sale to the enterprise, B2B, is, if you're managing your own career path, is building up your skill set, building up your business acumen to be able to understand the customer's problems, being able to ask great questions. You can pretty much map your own career path if you maintain those types of high-level proficiency in those skills and that knowledge. And that probably for me is the baseline advice for everybody in terms of career path, is develop that. And then you can be like my notable guest here, Bridget, have your choice of where you go, because you'll be in demand, because you have those person-to-person skills. I mean, those are I call it the last mile, right? The last mile that you're selling, person-to-person. If you can master that, then there's always going to be a career for you in sales.
Yeah, and if people buy from people. And until that changes, and yes, there's a lot that can be done that's automated and self-service, but there's still a large component of selling that goes on, people buying from people. And I think as long as that's the case, as you say, you can have a good, long, interesting, healthy career in sales that you can almost write your own ticket and to sort of map it out. But to be the master of that and to be very thoughtful about what it is that you like to do and what you feel that you're good at and how to continue to hone your skills in that, I think sales it continues to be and will continue to be just a great career. It can be a very lucrative career, very interesting, challenging. I mean, I've obviously been drinking the Kool-Aid for quite some time, but I'm still a big fan. I wouldn't go back and change it.
Well, that's good since you're on the show every week and we're talking about sales. Excellent. Right. Good perspective. So, well, great. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Frontline Fridays. As we have encouraged every week, please do send in your questions and we'll answer at least one as it comes in. And if we have time, we'll do more. And really about any topic sales related, if you're wild, you could send it about any topic and we'll tackle that. If we know the answer.
That's right.
Or have an opinion. Right. No shortage of opinions.
We'll probably have an opinion.
We'll have an opinion about everything. That's true.
That's true.
All right. Well, Bridget, thank you as always. And friends, thank you for tuning in. And we will talk to you next Friday. All
right. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.